Hello from the Res.
I'm Kinley.
And I'm Colton.
And this is Cherokee Nation's official podcast.
He's
He's a Cherokee singer-songwriter who grew up in the small traditional Cherokee community of Kenwood. He now works for the Cherokee Nation's Durban Feeling Language Center, and he just released his debut album. Welcome, Big Chuj.
Yo, welcome. Thank you.
How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, you know. Can't complain none, and I sure wouldn't. Hey.
Yeah, everybody getting over that sickness. I'm glad you could finally join us today.
Yeah, me too. It's been crazy for sure, but I think we're on the ups on that.
Yeah, school, it's hard to avoid it.
Yeah.
Speaking of kiddos, you just had a new baby. How's the whole family doing?
Oh man, it's going great. You know, it's just been a blessing. It really has. Being able to spend the first 2 weeks at home with them and being able to be hands-on and help and really get to hang out with him and get to know him. Even though he's an infant, you know, he kind of just looks around, but it's still nice to, I guess, have that experience and to be with a new member of our family.
I feel like your family is like the model Cherokee family. You know, you're raising them young. You know, your kids are in the immersion school, or is it?
Yeah. My oldest, he's 2, and he's in the baby immersion.
Oh, nice.
Kind of like subdivision there in the building, and we're gonna put this new guy in there too. A few weeks here, pretty quick, and I'm looking forward to it. I think they're gonna, hopefully they'll be speaking more Jaleg than me, and they'll be teaching me things.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, does your oldest one, is he fluent in Cherokee?
He's working on it. I would say none of us are fluent, but I think they're going to surpass me hopefully soon. I mean, they're already working on it. It's funny that he, speaks Cherokee and hears Cherokee all day, but his mom's side of the family, they're Mexican. And so he's been getting a lot of Spanish too, and from his grandfolks. And he kind of has like his own little language kind of code switching thing going on where he switches back and forth between Cherokee and Spanish.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it's been really interesting, and I love it. I love being able to experience that and, get to learn Spanish somewhat of my own. I'm really bad at it, but I try. I still try.
Yeah, not very many kids are trilingual before they're 2 years old. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure a super enriching experience to watch that.
Oh, yeah. It definitely makes me feel good, and getting to have them have experiences that, most people, they have to spend their adult life getting and fighting for, and they just get to grow up having that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you and Paloma combine your cultures for your children?
Oh, well. So mostly, we do mostly Cherokee stuff at home, but I really want them to have both parts of that to themselves. I want them to feel like they have, they're Cherokee and they're Mexican. They speak Cherokee and they speak Spanish or Nahuatl. And so we try to, combine it as best we can. Most of the media he watches, if he has it, is in Spanish. The books that we read, we try to get in Spanish. We try to, just keep in mind things that are going on kind of more like Mexican culture and such. As well as Cherokee stuff, but of course that comes a little bit more easier for me. But yeah, we try to balance it pretty evenly and keep it. We want it to be equal. We want it to be, something that they know.
Yeah. Do you guys, whenever you're at home, do you guys talk in Cherokee and in Spanish, or like are you guys somewhat of English and Spanish and a little bit of Cherokee?
So to the kiddos, it's either Cherokee or Spanish. We try not to break into English, at least talking to them. Mm-hmm. Me and Paloma, we switch into English just so, in serious parenting situations, we got to make sure the communication's clear. But we usually try to still talk Cherokee amongst ourselves. But usually we go back and forth between Cherokee and English. And then the kiddos, they get Cherokee and Spanish more so.
Because she also is learning to speak Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's really cool. To have two, husband and a wife be working on both languages, you know, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. It really has been. I'm extremely grateful, and she teaches me, Spanish words and a lot of slang. I love learning the slang. Her dad teaches me a lot, and so does her mom. But I got a lot, of just fun sayings from them, just kind of in passing and getting to hear it naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah, people talk about fluent speakers. It's not only the language they speak, but it's the way they think. Have you noticed crossover with that, with the Cherokee and the Spanish,
I think so, yeah. I think Spanish is such a more prominent language in the world, and so the view of the world through that language isn't too much different than what it would be in English, or I guess kind of like in a mainstream world, quote unquote. And so in that way, the Cherokee, whenever it blends them two, it kind of comes out as if they were learning English and Cherokee, but it has I guess it's still a different outlook in a way. It's kind of hard to describe.
Yeah, it's not exactly a concrete concept.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it blends pretty interestingly, but it works really good. He doesn't struggle getting his point across at all, for sure.
He has 3 languages to do it in.
For our listeners out there, tell us about you, where you're from, everything there is to know about Big Chuj.
I grew up, in Kenwood for the first 3 years of my life, and that's where all my family's from, well, most of them. And then I have some family up north, kind of by Kansas state line in Copan and Dewey, Bartlesville area. And then at that point, I moved to Tahlequah to join the immersion school. And so I did that for years, of course, up until like the 5th grade. And then I got pulled. That's how I like to pull it. Like to say it. I got pulled out of immersion to attend the Cherokee Language Master Apprentice program whenever it was first opening up. And so I got to hang out with speakers kind of more in a casual setting for 2 years. I mean, it was still, they were still teaching language, but it wasn't like on the chalkboard, here's your papers, fill out this, fill out that, kind of wordless things. It was more intentional. It was more conversational. And so I think that, was a pretty important thing for me to go through and to realize that language, that the Cherokee language specifically, isn't something that can easily be taught through a school system naturally. You got to have at least some degree of conversation and to hear it naturally for it to really stick. I see a lot of kids now especially who get to hear Cherokee all day at school, but whenever they go home, they hear all English, and it makes it really hard for them kind of pick up on both sides. And so I really do think that me getting to experience the language kind of more in a natural conversational setting really helped me kind of get to where I'm at now, with the music and my language and the work that I do. It was a big stepping stone experiencing that.
From a young age, I feel like both of your parents are considered maybe cultural and traditional leaders in the Cherokee Nation. What was it like growing up? I know you don't know any different, but I feel like a lot of that upbringing is something that they're trying to bring back in the Cherokee Nation, where you're immersed in your culture. What was it like growing up with parents that are cultural leaders and, people that others look to for culture and traditional advice?
It was cool. It was definitely different getting to meet all kinds of people. I got to travel all over the country, and present, traditional songs and dances and help my folks, kind of get the culture out there to the at-large communities. And that was a blessing. A good experience overall. I do think sometimes, I did lose out on being kind of just a child sometimes. But I do think it made me, more aware of the things around me and helped me, I guess, grow a part of my brain that I probably wouldn't have, or at least as fast as I did through conventional means, So I guess growing up, with folks that like to do culture and stuff, it opened up another perspective for me on the world and how I try to do things and go about life.
And that seems to be something that you're drawing on a lot now in your music career. Can you kind of talk about how your culture led to this music career that seems to be gaining steam every day.
Yeah, so we met this group of Maori language, leaders. They came and visited us, and that was an amazing experience. It really was a rude awakening whenever they came, because they have so much. They have so much developed. They've done so much, legwork and language revitalization. And so when they came and seen us, they would ask us all kinds of questions like, what are you doing with your language to keep it modern, keep it new, keep it alive? And we didn't really have anything, We were still so new and trying to get our footing. We didn't have anything. They said that you guys need to make music in Cherokee. You need to make film in Cherokee. You need to do things with your language and your culture. Modernize it in a way. Hang on to the roots, but modernize it. Bring it to the present. Yeah. Or it's not going to live. It's not going to come with your people. And so for me, I really hung on to that kind of idea that we need to grow our language in a healthy way, and make sure that it's still used, not necessarily in a super synthetic way, but to just modernize it and bring its value back, especially with the youth, That's where it's going to live and end, someday. We really need to make sure that the language is accessible and not something that is, I guess, kind of a headache to try to learn, and like, oh my gosh, I got to come to school and talk Cherokee. This is going to suck, Yeah.
Make it more natural.
Yeah, make it natural, make it just the way things are. Getting to experience them coming here and telling us like, look, dude, you guys need to get serious, because what you're doing is simply not enough. You need to really make it a living language again, put some life into it.
Probably where a lot of people first heard your music was on this All Cherokee album. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I got asked to be a part of this album called the Nasgino Inage album, The Performers. Jeremy Charles, a very good friend of mine, got a hold of my dad. They were working together on a project and asked my dad if I would be wanting to, do the country song for this album. During COVID, I picked up the guitar and, I got pretty sick into it. I didn't have anything else to do, so I got really gnarly. I would spend all day playing guitar, and my mom would post videos of me playing, Johnny Cash covers or Jimmy Rogers stuff,
Where the good stuff, where it all starts.
Oh, yeah. Man, I love that stuff still. He, wanted me to do the country song in the language, and I was kind of hesitant at first because I'm not a speaker. I've been learning the language all my life, but I wasn't seriously learning it until the last few years, It was kind of just something like, here's your opportunity to learn at school. I didn't take it because I didn't like school. I didn't want to do that. Yeah. And so everything I got was kind of just by being around it, but I didn't seriously put my mind to language until recently. And so I was kind of hesitant going into it, like, I'm not really the person that needs to do this. I can play guitar, and I have some language experience, and I love country music, but there's plenty of people who kind of fit that criteria that are speakers, I thought, that I could think of. So it was, but, I buckled down, and I was like, I'll try it, and it really did start a passion in me. After that first song and seeing the result of it and how people responded to it really made me want to keep going. It did.
Yeah, that's awesome. That brings me back to one of the questions I had is, who inspires you? Like, where do you draw your inspiration? What kind of music did you draw,
Oh, man, there's so much. That first song I ever wrote was definitely inspired by Jimmy Rogers. And he was kind of considered the grandfather of country music in the 20s. And he kind of got everything going for country. He really made it what it is now. People like him and, Ernest Tubb and Merle Haggard, Waylon, Willie, all the Outlaws. I mean, it would be hard to say just one specific person because it really is just the music. Yeah. The music inspires me. And there's people that do it that I really like Merle Haggard and Jimmy.
Yeah, I was just looking at this list of the album that you were featured on, and it's like the new Cherokee musician, like the new ranks of Cherokee musicianship. It's like Kaylin Faye and Ken Pomeroy and you and Zebediah No Fire and people that are really blowing up, like people that I have friends who are outside the Cherokee community completely, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, have you heard this?" And I was like, "Yeah, Cherokee people have been knowing about these people." You know?
Well, I work with him. Hey, he's right up the road.
Yeah.
What inspired your music writing?
It kind of comes from everywhere, you know. I try to stay loose, you know. I try not to stay on a theme too heavily. It winds up being that way sometimes. I try to talk about anything and everything because that's what we need, you know. You know, maybe one day I could be a one-trick pony and write, you know, one style of song over and over and over again. But my goal right now is to try to be as diverse as possible with specifically country music and, you know, take on different themes like heartache and love. And I've written a few murder ballads, not any personal reason. That's Jimmy Rogers. That's Jimmy Rogers in me coming through. No. But yeah, I try to just talk about everything and anything that I can, whatever comes to my mind, because we're at the point now where anything that can be talked about in the language in a song probably should be, because we don't have it. So I might write a song about, you know, call it day, getting rocks at the creek, you know, whatever it may be, you know, for rattles or whatnot.
But I mean, just it being done in Cherokee, like saying in Cherokee is pretty cool. Like, I don't know. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, and it's, you know, maybe a few years ago, somebody was writing country songs in Cherokee. I don't know if it would have picked up as much steam as it has, and I don't know if that's probably, you know, our language revitalization efforts and, you know, we're making that public, but I'm like, if you Google your name, it's all like these national level organizations that have picked up your story and are like so interested. And it's probably a little surreal to, you know, you said you struggle with some imposter syndrome early. Like the interest that your two passions combining has created on such a wide scale. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, what that journey's been like? I see all the NPR stuff and, you know, Western AF, one of my favorite YouTube channels, and, you know, what it's been like to kind of ride the lightning there a little bit.
Yeah. I wouldn't have done any of this without my wife. I really wouldn't have. She helps me with everything, filling out the paperwork, you know, get in contact with people. I'm like awful at stuff like that.
She's like your publicist.
Yeah, she really is. And, you know, she motivates me too, just on a personal level, you know, and makes me feel like I can do things, you know. Because, you know, kind of going back to that imposter syndrome, I don't always feel like I should be the person kind of doing that and representing the language in that way because I'm still a learner, you know. But she really keeps me going and get up there, soldier. Hey, come on now. You don't do that. Shape. Yeah, you know, get up there. I don't think I would have been able to have done any of this without my wife. And so I guess riding the lightning in a way is it's not even, I haven't even looked at it like that. It's just something that I feel like I need to do, kind of like a mission. I need to do this for the language. I need to do this for, you know, the kiddos that I teach, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it reminds me, I heard some public speaking advice not too long ago, and it reminded me of the way you were saying it. You know, it's a need is like, you're not worried about how you sound when you're telling people that the building's on fire, you know, you don't get caught up in the details when you're saving a language, you know, it just happens. And it's worked out obviously well for you. I think the people are really connecting with the mix of art and culture that you create.
What are you working on now?
Oh, I'm still songwriting. It's slowed down a little bit, you know. I got my second kiddo and of course work's getting busier. So I still songwrite, but it's not as often as I was. That's really it. I'm just trying to rack up my collection again of songs that I want to put another album out at some point. And, you know, I'm just trying to, I guess, collect as many as I can and kind of have some options, you know. On this first album, I didn't really give myself options. What I put out is everything that I had, which is good, you know. I'm happy I was able to do that. But I'd like to be able to give myself some, you know, creative time to like, oh, maybe this one, or maybe I should tweak this one a little bit for the album, or, you know, kind of really, I guess, give a lot of detail and attention to them. So that's kind of what I've been working on music-wise. Of course, you know, going out and playing shows and meeting new people in the industry and, making friends, and that stuff's always been fun to me. I love meeting people for sure.
I feel like we also kind of skipped over your first album. Can you kind of tell us how the process of that went? You know, you were saying you were struggling with your imposter syndrome, and you're like, I don't know if I should be the person to sing one song, you know, and now you're like embracing it, and you know, you put a whole album out, and people are loving it.
Yeah. Well, the album specifically, going back to my wife, she got a grant for me from the Native Arts and Culture Foundation. It was the Lift grant. And that is what pretty much funded the whole album, you know, paying musicians, paying my friend Jared Tyler. He did the first song on the Onda Nelis album. He did that album. And so I want him to do mine. And so I wanted to pay him good, too, to mix and produce and get a good guy to master all the songs and put them together. That's kind of how we got the ball rolling. Of course, you know, we got merch, and that helped out a lot. But another big person that helped me out a lot was a guy named Brian Horton through Horton Records. I mean, he paid for all the vinyl. He's helped pay for shows. He's helped pay for shirts and CDs and whatnot. I mean, he's been a very heavy hitter in this project, you know. None of it would have just been done by me. You know, everything that I've done has been through a team. And I don't think I would have done it by myself. I wouldn't have even tried because I don't like to put myself out there necessarily. But I think with other people helping me and keeping me going and pushing me and kind of just paving the road and here, go walk it, you know. It makes it a lot easier, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a big Cherokee value. You know, everybody steps in and, you know, pushing you to the top, but you're very humble. I feel like you don't give yourself enough credit there. That collection of songs, how many was it on that album?
10.
How did those 10 songs come to be, and what are some of your favorites from that album?
Oh, yeah. So most of them I wrote while I was in Clamap, and, you know, I'd get free time, and I was, you know, swimming in the language, just trying not to drown, really. And so there was a lot of words that I would hear or concepts that I didn't understand that I wanted to learn more about. And so I would ask about them, and I would try to, you know, get more understanding of them. And in order for me to remember them well, I wanted to put them in a song. Understand, you know, grammar, understand specific sayings or words, I'd put them in a song. So I wouldn't have any choice but to, you know how to say it. And so to me, these songs, they're kind of they're a result of me trying to preserve my own language and to try to, I guess, use them as teaching tools for myself, especially early on, because I really, you know, needed that kind of support with, I guess, not just trying to memorize things from a board, but like having a tune to them. I don't know how else to say it, have a tune to them. I wrote most of them through Clamap to kind of just help me familiarize myself with the language. As far as my favorite songs, definitely Ginliosa. I guess it'd be the 11th track on the album, the song for my wife. That's the only song I've wrote in English and had put into Cherokee by David Crawler. I went and visited him and pestered him, and he made it like no problem at all. Like, you know, I try to take into mind, you know, whenever I am songwriting, what would be possible to say in the language, because not everything can be directly translated. So I try to take that into mind, and even in that song, I knew I had some kind of weird terms and things that would be hard to translate into Cherokee, and it was no problem. And so I'm really happy that that song came out the way it did. Love songs are really hard in Cherokee. I really do think, you know, we don't have a word for love, of course, and the reason I think that is because it's not something that you talk about; it's something that you show and do. You know. We don't have words for it because it's not something that you need to talk about. It's something that you just make happen, you know. And so I think that's kind of why it's so hard to talk about kind of love things in the language, because it's just what you're supposed to do. It's supposed to take care of each other, you know.
Take note, boys.
Hey.
Listening.
But that's my favorite song on the album. Honestly, it's one of the only ones I can still listen to. You know, I like my songs or whatever, but I was kind of burnt out on most of them by the time I went in to record, you know. except for that one. That one I was really excited to do.
Yeah, the love song is always cited by the musicians I listen to as, something that's the most impactful because it comes from literally the heart, not to be too cheesy.
Hey,
I'm a country music fan myself, and a lot of my friends are like, man, that's so sad. Like, how do you listen to that? And
it's the best stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, we say Colton's the sad boy country. That's what he likes.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, the sad songs make me happy, as BJ Barham, shout out American Aquarium, would say. But, how does country music as a genre blend with your culture?
Oh, man, it's so easy. You could walk outside and throw a rock and hit a turkey. That's a good old boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of hand in hand, especially talking about themes that country music touches on in the language. It's just natural, Everything that a country song talks about is exactly what Cherokees do. And, Cherokees do more, of course, but to put it in a country song is super easy, It's already out there. You just got to put it in the language. Because a country song is just a Cherokee's life for the most part.
Yeah. Do you think, like, growing up in Kenwood, I don't know, did that have any kind of effect on your music as well?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm moved away pretty early on, but I'd go up there quite a bit, a couple times a month and visit my family. And, we have our stomp ground up there, and so I'll go up there and, we'll dance and whatnot. That specifically, the grounds there definitely has an impact on my sound and my music. I tried to take the way that I sing, more ceremonial songs and where I draw that from, I try to put that into the music I write. It's definitely, I think, made a difference and kind of gives me a little uniqueness, at least, how I sing physically. Yeah, Kenwood has definitely done a number on how I songwrite and really look at the world.
I was looking at your website a while ago, and I really like the merch that you have.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Thank you.
There's like a picture of you on a t-shirt. So if you guys want some Big Chuj
Is that a
merch,
mugshot?
There's one. Oh, no, it's not a mugshot. It's close. It's my state ID.
Oh, okay.
I had to go and get a state ID, and I was mad, man. I was so mad. I had to get a state ID. I did not want that.
The Cherokee mugshot is the state
Yeah,
ID.
yeah.
I've got a card already.
I know exactly. I was like, I don't need this. Why do I got to get this? I had to. I can't remember why, but I did.
Speaking of Kenwood, that community has really been transformed recently. It's always been a cultural hub, and it's always been one of the cultural centers, I think, of the Cherokee Nation. But how have you seen that community change since you were born?
Oh, man, it has blossomed for sure. Growing up, I always heard, stories about Kenwood, like from other people, and be like, oh, man, that place is scary. That place is rugged. I want to go to, what? You go to Kenwood? You're
It's
from
a Mace
Kenwood?
County legend for sure.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's not that bad, It's pretty good, You just got to know the right people. You gotta approach people in the right way, But, of course, like any community, Kenwood has had its struggles. It has really blossomed, and it is growing in a healthy way. And that makes me happy. I go through there and I see, it's pretty much all my family. Hey, I go through there and I see them, and everyone, is still cutting up and laughing as usual. But it doesn't seem like it's from such a place of, I guess, anxiety. The things that kind of go on in a res quietly, with that community center specifically. Everything feels lighter. Everything feels a little bit more, kind of like you sprayed WD-40 on, a rusty gear. Everything feels like it's going a lot better, and people are really doing a lot better over there. That makes me happy.
Yeah, and, obviously that was a major investment from the tribe, and just the transformation. I was out there taking some before photos, of the old playground that was there, and it's just a field, and to see it now is pretty amazing. How has your family responded to that?
Oh, man. Well, most everybody loves it. Hey? Of course, there's some people that don't like it, or even other people in other communities that are like, they put a $20 million, or however much money it was, community center in Kenwood. Why,
Yeah.
Well, I think the results will show why. It truly has made an impact. It has made a positive change in kind of like a hub, a cultural hub, like you said. And I think most anybody that is a happy person, or is really a part of the community probably is really excited for the center. And I myself am, and I'm just happy that, my family does have a place that they can go. They're not just stuck. They have something that they can do.
Yeah, I realize I need to correct myself there. I said a Mays County legend. I grew up between Pryor and Salina, so you hear words of Kenwood, and you think of it as Mays County, but it's actually Delaware County, as my Delaware County folks will know.
So the Tiny Desk contest for the NPR Tiny Desk contest, what is it like? Because I think you were picked top shelf pick, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like seeing, the language and yourself just be featured like that,
It was cool, As soon as they said I got to top shelf, I was like, okay, I'm done. Hey, I'll do whatever you want.
You can retire now. You did it.
I was like, that's fine by me, Even if, if I don't win or whatever, I was like, top shelf is more than enough for me, That's way more than I thought I was going to get. So I was like, shoot, yeah, I'll take that.
But that's awesome, though, like that you were, I don't know, like the language is getting out there, that at that kind of level.
Yeah. It's a blessing.
Julian Baker also had something to do with that, correct?
Yeah.
She's internationally known. What does it feel like to have somebody on that level be able to connect with your music, just music that comes from, your small town culture?
It was cool, I didn't know who that person was, honestly. I'm pretty localized. Hey, I don't listen to a lot of other music or keep up with stuff on social media. So, once I figured out who it was, I was pretty stoked. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm happy that they can connect to, that song and, the language and kind of see the value of the language there. And, kind of show that even though it's in a language most people probably won't understand, it still has a heart that everyone can, appreciate to it.
And I was looking at the video, and your style in this video is really cool. Where did you draw inspiration?
Yeah, okay.
Where did you draw inspiration for your fit?
So that's my dad's hat. He
Nice.
stomp danced in that hat, and I took it. Now I stomp dance in it. That's where the hat came from. I've always loved kind of like the flat brim, open crown, kind of like an Amish guy look.
Redefining it.
Yeah, redefining it, I love that kind of simplistic style. And then the sashes, there's kind of a sad story to these sashes, actually. Whenever I was a little guy, Tanya Weevil made me those sashes in a way, but they got stolen. We did something for the UN in New York. We opened it up for something. And on the way back, they were gone. And a bunch of other stuff, but the sashes, and it was, they're one of a kind. They have a lot of personal meaning to me, like with the Redbird, and like I handpicked everything, the colors and everything, and they were gone, probably for a decade. And then last year, maybe at the end of 2023, she surprised me with a new replica set that would fit me now, of course.
Oh, wow.
And that's I got them like maybe a month or two before the video, and so I wanted to wear them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that you're incorporating the Cherokee culture, not just like in the language and it being sang about, but you're also using it like how you appear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. Very impactful.
Thank you. Hey.
Yeah.
Kinley's our style icon, so she's...
Oh, yes. I mean, I always look at people's fits. And your fit now, like, it's giving me 70s vibes.
My mother-in-law got me this shirt.
Yeah. I like it with the hat, the jean jacket, It's cool.
Stepped out of a different era, man. That's why people connect to your song so well, I'm sure.
This is the way. Hey.
Well, I think I can speak for everybody when I say we've been super impressed. You're out there advocating for your culture, your language, and you're doing it in a way that really connects, like you said, with young people. You know, it keeps the language modern. We just want to thank you for being on the podcast. We're honored to have you. We're honored to reach into this generation of Cherokee artists that are, you know, really taking it to the next level and keeping our stuff up to date. And I'm going to have you sign something before you leave, just so when you're big and famous, we'll say we have his signature. So,
but we also need to mention that Big Chuj, his song is the beginning of our podcast.
Theme song is one thing, but I will say I think your music set the tone for the whole podcast, because we spent probably 8 hours in here the first day kind of figuring out where we were going with this thing. And Brian, our producer, was like, put on some of Chuj's music. You know, you kind of got to get in the zone. And again, 3 non-speakers, but we really connected with your music to the point where we were like, this is setting the tone for really this entire project.
Yeah. He's like, that's a lot of weight on my shoulders.
Hey, I just want you to know that all your imposter syndrome is invalid. I think you're killing it out there, man. But
thank you.
Yeah. And for those that are listening, for our listeners, where can people find you?
Oh, man, I'm everywhere. I'm on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, buy my CDs. I ran out of vinyl, but I still got CDs. You know, I'm on Amazon and Pandora, wherever. You can Shazam my stuff. I didn't even know you could do that, so that's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm everywhere, you know. You just got to look up Agalisiga, which can be a headache, But
well, I did check Google, and if you Google Chuj Mackey, you also pop up.
Okay, well, that's good.
Chuj is a little easier for a lot of people.
Yeah, no kidding.
So are you going to go by both?
I just go by whatever.
Whatever,
you know?
yeah.
Because, you know, for me, I'm kind of like the vessel for the music. You know, I go by the Chuj, Big Chuj, Agalisiga, you know, any of them. Perfect. Any and all.
Yeah. Hey, you're just here for the ride.
Yeah,
and you're doing a great job, man. Just great to have you on the podcast. I think you're doing great things, and like I said, that the generation of people, especially on that album, have just blown the doors off the place as far as spreading our culture and, you know, using their talents to help the language, etc. We're so excited to see what's coming up for you, man.
Thank you.
We're going to be over here saying, we had this kid on the podcast, you know, before he was playing Madison Square Garden. So that's thank you,
I don't even know where that is. No, I'm so
good. Why don't you?
Yeah, we're done.
CO from the Res was recorded at the W.W. Keeler Tribal Complex in Tahlequah on the Cherokee Nation Reservation.
This episode was hosted by Kinley Keys and Colton Brandstetter.
Our producer is Brian Dugan.
Our podcast art was designed by Justine Eden.
This episode was edited by Samantha Robinson and Colton Brandstetter.
Soundtrack by Chuj Mackey.
If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe and leave a review. It'll help more people find us. Please share this episode with your family and friends, especially some of our elders who may not be on social media or listen to podcasts.
And don't forget to follow Cherokee Nation on social media for podcast updates and behind-the-scenes content.
If you aren't a regular listener already, be sure to check out Dennis Sixskiller's Cherokee Voices, Cherokee Sounds, which paved the way for a show like this. And be sure to check back for future episodes of CO from the Res everywhere you listen to podcasts, because we have some exciting guests lined up.
Until next time, stay connected, watch out for one another, and CO from the Res.
Slowly unadachlan, gati ohin, o GC dan eilen, COJ dohan.